Good morning, I'm Maiki Oreta and welcome to Industry Beacon, where we shine a light on the trailblazers, the disruptors, and the industry leaders shaping our future. And in each episode, we'll explore how they're staying ahead in their respective industries, one field at a time. Now, in focus this morning is the Philippine food industry. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has made food security a top priority of his administration, but with ongoing challenges, including supply chain risks, rising production costs, and the growing impact of climate change, how is this industry adapting to boost its resilience? Joining us today to just talk about this and more is Century Pacific Foods Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer, Greg Banzon.
Hello.
Hi, Greg. We're happy to have you here with us.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so Greg, you guys are one of the largest food and beverage companies in the country. So let's start with a look at the industry from your lens. Lots of changes on the macroeconomic front. Interest rates here and in the U.S. are coming down. Here at home, inflation cooled to 1.9% in September, the lowest.
That's right.
First time it went below 2% in 4 years.
Since 2020.
How do you see this changing consumer behavior and ultimately the demand?
That's one of the biggest challenges consumers had to face over the last 2 years, inflation. And an easing of prices, I think, will be a welcome respite from all of the challenges that they were going through. And especially coming into the holidays, I think it's like, hopefully it will spur demand, consumer demand.
I mean, in the past, demand was a little constrained given the high interest rates and the high inflation environment. But things are changing. So you think consumer behavior is going to change from their pagkatipid before. Now they'll have a little bit more in the pockets to spend.
I think consumers have changed. The impact of the pandemic and then the inflationary environment after that have made them a little bit more penny-wise. So though they were matipid especially during high inflation period, I think a lot of those habits will remain. They'll be a little wiser in terms of how they spend whatever cash they have. But you'll see a little bit more of indulgences coming out over the past 18 months or so. They've been not giving themselves as much, let's say, benefit to enjoy other things like desserts, for example, or even more meat consumption. So now that's going to slowly come back. But still very cautious in terms of their spend, I think.
Yeah, always we need to be. What are the biggest challenges and risks in this industry right now?
Yeah, I think over the past 2 years, it has been inflation. But with that easing, so I think there are more opportunities for food companies, large and small, to be able to capitalize on being able to serve consumers and being able to provide the best value, which consumers have always been looking for.
In terms of trends, whether here in the Philippines or globally, the trend has always been for more health-conscious alternatives. How do you see, what are the new trends that you see emerging in this space? Will it still be health and affordable nutrition?
Yeah, so health has been, again, coming from the pandemic, it's changed consumers' mindset in terms of how they live, how they eat, being able to exercise and stuff like that, and even overall lifestyle changes. So that's translated immediately into food. We've seen consumers be more conscious about the labels and the ingredients that are in products, so health will be a key driver. The other thing would be convenience and value. Again, coming from the pandemic and after the pandemic, consumers now are more active or lead busier lifestyles. So they've been forced to be mothers, for example, but have a business on the side and also be able to learn new things. So they're more active in terms of looking for ways by which they can save on time, in terms of where they shop and the products that they buy and how easy it is to prepare. And obviously value. The last point will be sustainability. I think more and more consumers are looking for products and brands that are more aligned with their values in terms of being able to, let's say, be good stewards of the environment in terms of making the product.
All right. Now, speaking of products, you've got a wide variety as you're in multiple segments. You've got an extensive portfolio that includes leading brands across the marine, meat, milk, plant-based, pet food, and even coconut products. Can you give us a sense, Greg, of the overall scale of your of this business in terms of market share and geographic reach? Where is that at today?
In terms of scale, we're obviously one of the largest, or in fact, the largest canned food company in the country. By way of market share in the tuna category, which is one of the largest tuna categories in the world, or markets in the world compared to, I guess, relative countries. We're about north of about 80% or so, using 4 brands. In the meat, canned meat category, we're about 50% or higher. And we're the number 1 player as well in coconut creams. We're strong number 2 players in dairy, both powdered milk and liquid milk, particularly in the culinary space for liquids. And a strong challenger as well in the sardine category, which is like the most consumed canned food product in the country.
Yeah, you have a huge market share in tuna in the canned seafood market with 80% plus market share there. Canned meats 50% plus market share, dairy 30% plus. How do you see this mix evolving over the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, our ambition is really, because we're already market leaders in canned tuna, what we've been doing is really drive growth of the category. That's why we've been working on campaigns that increase consumption. So therefore, Super Buds, for example, is the best way by which we can convince consumers to live a healthier lifestyle. It combines both fitness, eating right, and overall, I guess, positivity in terms of being the best version of yourself. So we've had many iterations of Super Buds, but it continues to be like a relevant event on a regular basis. We run that event every 2 years.
Okay.
So
canned tuna, that's your leading product segment now.
The challenge here is to grow the category because we're already dominant. In canned meat, it's really about, there's enough market for everyone. I think it's also staying relevant and keeping it affordable to the mass market consumer. And in the coconut space, I think we can be seen as pioneers in really growing packaged coconut products. And I think the challenge for us is really being able to serve coconut milk, or gata, is like a staple in a lot of Filipino dishes. We did our dish penetration studies, and that's where we found out that consumers are really looking for, let's say, an easy way to get or to access and store gata. And it's really about serving the capacity. In dairy, it's expansion, growing market share.
And you're also investing in unmeat. With a rise of plant-based food and alternatives to meat. That's
right. So plant-based meat is going through a bit of a correction. It was a big thing going into the 2020s or so, and then it started to see a decline over the last 2 years or so internationally, more of retreating to a niche, so to speak. But we still see the long-term opportunity in plant-based. Let's face it, there are 8 billion people in the world. Maybe in 10, 15 years, that'll be 10 billion. To feed 8 to 10 billion people, the world is making 350 billion kilos of meat on an annual basis. And it's already creating issues to the environment. So something's got to give. So we're forecasting that by maybe in 10 years' time or so, when we're 10 billion, you'll need 450 billion kilos of meat produced, and the world cannot produce that. So alternative meats will kick in. Governments are already regulating that lesser meat production to sustain the environment. And so we think that plant-based will be a key factor. So we're hedging.
You're growing your capacity in this area.
We're early movers. We're already in 7,000 supermarkets all over the world with a particularly strong footprint in the U.S. We're in Walmart. We're in the Albertsons Group. we're in the large footprint retailers in the U.S. We just landed in the Netherlands and in Spain, so we're taking it from the north and the south in terms of entering Europe. And what we did differently is, because of our heritage as canned food manufacturers, we made our plant-based brand primarily canned food, and it's starting to resonate with consumers. We're also in Australia in 1,000 supermarkets with the Woolworths chain. So early days, but we're excited about the opportunity for
Fantastic. So much
meat.
growth, so much opportunity ahead
Right.
for several of your categories. Now, that said, earnings in the first half increased by 14%,
Right.
With strong contributions from exports and your branded products.
Right.
Do you expect to sustain this sort of growth in the second half as well?
Yeah, so the strong performance of our, let's say, our OEM or private label business is really driven by a lower 2023 first half. If you recall,
Lower base.
there were issues in the supply chain in 2022 and coming into 2023, and that created a bit of like a funk in terms of demand. And so we're now seeing the big growth dividend in the first half. That's still going to sustain, but not to the same levels as what we experienced or we enjoyed in the first half of the year. On the branded side, it's pretty much of our steady business. We continue to grow in terms of revenue in, let's say, the high single digit or low double digit level.
Digits, okay.
And with inflation easing, consumer demand
Will pick up.
starting to pick up, and the Christmas season coming in, you'll see more or less, I guess, going at the same level of growth.
Yeah. All right. Now, in 2023, your earnings grew by 12% to 5.6 billion pesos.
Right.
How do you expect to do this 2024?
Similar. What we're trying to do is grow our top line and bottom line anywhere from 10 to 15% every year. We've been fairly fortunate and blessed to be able to do that. On average, our compounded annual growth rate on the top line and the bottom line has been about 13-14%. I think you'll see a similar or close to that performance again into 2024.
Okay, hold that thought, Greg. We're going to be
Right.
taking a quick break. Industry Beacon will be right back. Please stay with us.
This is Pinky Webb, and it's a great opportunity.
Ang inyong lingkod si Corina Sanchez Rojas
Corina Sanchez,
As they uphold their mission,
is to be proud
dalawang
of what we
mamamahayag
do
na
in our
subok
lives.
sa
Ito ako
tapang
ay
at
had
talino.
the chance to talk with all of you. Maraming salamat.
trust
Pagsasamahin ng isa. Agenda. Mondays to Fridays, 6 p.m. Only on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel. Your newest source of news and information.
That's it?
Follows you everywhere, every day.
Wow.
Oh man.
On cable and free TV. Online.
He joins us from the Batasan Comercial.
On mobile.
Simulan na natin ang agenda. No privacy.
This is BNC, and we are everywhere.
Welcome back to Industry Beacon. Let's continue our discussion with Century Pacific Foods Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer, Greg Banzon. Okay, hi, Greg. So, Greg, what is driving growth this 2024, and what's going to be sustaining it for the group beyond 2025?
We're fortunate to have like two legacy businesses, the canned tuna business and canned meat. That provides a strong base, and that continues to grow year on year. But what we're excited about is the growth of our pet food business. It's growing about 97% year to date. It's early days, but we entered pet food 2 or 3 years ago. And
97% year to date. Those figures are pretty
we've
phenomenal.
been expanding from cat food to dog food, from wet to dry. And if you think about it, there are about 110, 115 million Filipinos. So that's the mouths that we're trying to feed.
Plus their pets now.
Now we took a step back and did a survey, and we found out there are about 57 million pets. Of course, a big percentage of that is still eating table scraps and all of that, but a growing percentage because of, I guess, the love for pets that consumers have in this market is shifting towards pet food, so packaged pet food. And so that's something we know how to do. Protein is our expertise, so healthy food for pets, and it's resonating with our brand called Goodest.
Along the same lines, any other new markets or new segments you want to enter? Was this foray into pet food, was this your newest?
Yes, alongside, I think we had 3 or 4 big innovations: pet food, coconuts, coconut milk, gata. We worked on the packaging. It looked interesting. When we first launched it, we were a bit worried because it wasn't moving. We did a few tweaks on the pricing, and all of a sudden it started to expand. The third would be unmeat, which we talked about earlier. I think that's more of an international play than it is a domestic play. Ultimately, over time, consumers here in the Philippines...
For now, right? It'll start in the West,
correct,
and then it'll pick up and gain traction, and then you'll be ready for that too.
That's why we're activating in the US and in Europe, because whatever happens in those markets eventually reaches this part of the world.
Determines the trends,
The third would be our dairy business. So in a very short period of time, we've been able to grow our business from hardly anything in 2016 to almost 30% today.
Right, with the acquisition of a legacy brand, Birch Tree.
We've had it for a long time, but we activated it in 2016. Background story behind that was when we were looking for drivers of growth, because we were a two-legged business, or we had marine and meat, and we needed another branded category to grow in. And we scoped the market of dairy, and we found out that the Philippines was the lowest per capita consumption of milk amongst our ASEAN brothers. And when we tried to understand the underlying reason behind that, it was because our milk, a glass of milk was more expensive
Cost
here
and
than
value.
versus Vietnam and Thailand. Yeah. So we took that as our cue to offer like an affordable
affordability will change the behavior spending patterns.
So we increased per capita consumption in this country by 35%, coming from increased consumption of birch tea. We didn't steal share. We grew the category, and in the process gained about almost 30% market share.
Amazing. Okay, going back to growth, let's talk about your capital expenditure budget for 2025. In 2023, you allotted $3 billion for this, and in 2024, it was $5 billion. How much are you allotting for CapEx in 2025?
So I guess almost the same. 2024 was a bit of a bump because we had to invest in capacity, especially for coconuts. As you know, we acquired Coco Harvest in response to our need to have more capacity to serve the coconut cream market, the gata market here in the Philippines. In fact, we haven't even pushed the button in terms of exporting Coco Mama, although there's like a big clamor already for consumers worldwide to buy the product. So I think 2025 will really be more about driving, I guess, increased capacity, working on our efforts in terms of improving sustainability, providing efficiency, driving efficiency across the system, because our scale has grown and we need to have better systems and processes in place. And I guess the other would be in terms of being able to improve our work in terms of developing our people.
Right, and you need the financial muscle to do all of that stuff.
Right.
Now, the Century Pacific Group has been very conservative with its debt levels. So do you plan on funding the new CapEx of $5 billion with internally generated cash, or are you going to be...
That's always been our practice, depending on like what the pressures look like. We're still planning into 2025. We're not so sure yet if it's really going to be $5 billion. People are presenting their maintenance maintenance plans and capacity improvement plans. There's no big acquisition in sight for now. So so it's mostly going to be, conservatively, we're saying we're probably going to generate it internally.
Okay, looking forward to 2025 and beyond, are there any specific milestones, corporate milestones, that you wish to have?
Right. To me, it's really more of sustaining the growth. We've been setting records year on year, year after year, in terms of outdoing ourselves in terms of the revenue and the net income performance. So it's really about building expanded distribution, penetration of our brands across the different categories that we're participating in, but probably making a bigger dent in the innovations that we've chosen to compete in, like in dairy, coconut milk, and pet food.
Okay, so much more to talk about, but that's all the time we have for today. So thank you so much, Greg, for being with us and talking to us about your industry. It's amazing what you guys are doing and the footprint that you have, and it's only going to get bigger.
I hope so.
All right. And that's it for today's show. I'm Maiki Oreta. Catch the Bilyonario News Channel on Free TV, Channel 31, and on cable via Cignal Channel 24. Thank you for watching the Bilyonario News Channel, always on top.